welcome to the NUFC Global Podcast. My name's Aaron. We have Harry here as always. We are missing our third host, Maddie, who can't be with us. He's unfortunately has to work. Today we have none other than former Newcastle United midfielder Danny Guthrie, who played 92 times for Newcastle, scored a total of 7 goals from midfield in his time at the club spanning from 2008 to 2012. Welcome, Danny. How are you?
I'm great. It's a pleasure to be here, fellas, and looking forward to it.
Brilliant. So obviously you started off with your early life. How did you lead into football? Were you always playing football from a young age, or did you click in at a certain age?
Yeah, ever since I can remember, really. And I don't really have any family history of footballers in the family. My dad never played. Granddad's never played. So it was just something I started playing around, obviously, my local area. I guess it's the usual story. I was playing with older, bigger kids, and then obviously you learn to take the knocks and the bruises, and you start off as the weakest link, and then obviously it becomes an addiction, and you just it just goes from there, And I was obsessed. I really was obsessed, and then as you move through the local teams and then the academies, and you work your way through the system.
Yeah, because you started the Manchester United Academy, correct?
So yeah, I was actually at Aston Villa first, because I was growing up in the Midlands. So Aston Villa is probably the biggest club in the Midlands.
Yep.
And I was in their academy. I was training there. Then I went over to Man United. And there's different rules and stipulations about how far you can travel to and from the academy from your home by the FA. So I couldn't really sign for Man United because it was outside the jurisdiction. Yep. And then, I guess a year later, after I'd been training with Man United during the school holidays and stuff like that. And then, Liverpool come in and just swooped in, and I took a look around their facilities, met the coaches, and just fell in love with that club. And ever since then, it's been my team.
So Liverpool is your club. Liverpool's your club you support.
Oh, absolutely. I love the club, and it's where I grew up. It's where I learned to become a footballer, a man, and spent all my adolescent years there.
Yeah. Would you say there was a sizable population, Danny, growing up in Shrewsbury? What was the most populated, supported team in that region at the time?
Definitely Villa. I think Villa are the biggest team in the Midlands, and they've got a great history. So their academy they had a really good training ground and academy facilities. So anyone who's in that area, Midlands area, who's decent, Villa will come for. And it's a very competitive area because obviously there's the likes of Wolves, West Brom, and then a little bit further away is Leicester and Nottingham Forest. So it's a really competitive area for them clubs. But when the big boys come calling, a little bit further north in Man United and Liverpool, there's not much they can do about it.
Yeah, Danny. So when you went over to Liverpool, obviously you were eventually brought into the first team squad, and I think you made 3 appearances for Liverpool. I think your last one was Galatasaray, correct?
Yeah. So I think altogether I made 7, and they were some cup games.
Yep.
I made 3 Premier League appearances, and then I obviously made my full debut.
Who were you playing under?
Rafa Benitez the whole time. Yeah.
Okay. So you've got that. Did you have a good relationship with Rafa at Liverpool?
He was like a really difficult. He was really difficult to form a relationship with personally. Football wise, he was excellent. Obviously, a brilliant coach, but he kept it really football. He was very business wise. It wasn't any personal relationships, and that went through the whole squad. I mean, from the top, from the top of the tree to Gerrard to the young players, it was very, very. There was a barrier. And it was only football.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's would have been amazing working under such a manager such as Rafa. Obviously, just a tactician at heart. He's cold-blooded.
Ruthless, and like you said, but learned so much in the short period I was with him, especially tactically and positionally. It was a real education, and unfortunately for me. the fortunate thing was obviously I was working and training with great coaches and players, but unfortunately that team at that time, that Liverpool team under Benitez, was really, really special, and the midfield players in obviously Gerrard, Alonso, Mascherano, it was
very hard to break in.
So I gained everything I could, and when the time was right, obviously I made the move up north.
Would you say, Danny, that perhaps if you did experience such enormous growth in that Liverpool team at the time, that maybe Rafa had the most managerial impact on your career as a player yourself?
That's a difficult one. Did he? No, I don't think he did. And the only reason was I don't think he had the time and patience for a young player at that time. Speaking personally, how I felt, just because Liverpool were pushing for titles, they were pushing for Champions Leagues, and he was very. He obviously had great players in that position, but it was difficult for him to really give me the time I needed, because the situation, if I can just briefly go over, the situation is at that time at Liverpool Football Club, the academy and the first team were totally separate. They trained at different areas of the city. So, and there was a real disconnect in terms of how Benitez would play compared to how the academy was playing. So as an academy player and a midfield player especially, Steven Gerrard would be the role model, and he would be, box to box, and he would score goals, would get back, he'd defend. And we grew up with that style, and that's how, we were taught to play. Now Benitez comes in and, he's this master tactician, and all of a sudden he plays with, two holding midfielders. They don't move. They're not allowed to run forward. And you've seen Gerrard suffer positionally, where he had to play as a right winger or he had to play as a number 10, because Benitez just didn't trust Gerrard to stay and hold in that position like a Mascherano and a Sissoko or Alonso would. So when I arrive and I'm running back and forth all over the place, he's tearing his hair out. And it's difficult for me because I'm being asked to play a different role. It's difficult for him because he's thinking, oh my, I haven't got time to really educate this guy. So it was a real, and obviously now that at Liverpool, the whole system, the academy and first team are all together, so you don't have that problem. But that was just one of those things.
Well, I guess when you're playing at the highest level and like you've got the pressure of managing a club like Liverpool, they're expecting results, and it's cutthroat, and it's always going to be to some to a good degree at the top level. I mean, Gerrard,
it's all about timing.
Gerrard almost had a falling out with Rafa as well, didn't he? Really,
well, this was the thing. I think Gerrard was, he was being asked to, Gerrard was arguably the best centre midfield player in the league, and all of a sudden he's being asked to play in another position. He's getting moved all over the place, even though he's playing great. He's probably thinking, oh, how have I not got his trust to play in midfield? So, but he, like I said, Benitez was really cold, really ruthless with his decision making, and like I was about to say, football's all about timing. I mean, after Benitez, Kenny Dalglish comes in, and another academy player called Jay Spearing, who similar level player to me, goes and makes 50-60 appearances because Kenny loves the young players. He's playing a different style. So it's all about timing, the right manager and the right fit.
Yeah, it's all about fitting into the right place at the right time, and that's just life in general to a degree. Who would you say is the best player you've played alongside? Would it be Stevie G?
Every time I get asked this question, I don't like to say Liverpool players because obviously I'm always going to be biased. But the best I've ever seen is Stevie. I mean, if you're ticking up boxes about a criteria of a player, I can't think of a box he doesn't tick. He can do everything, and that's from technically to physically. He can play in any position. But then there's players that have played in a longer period of time. The best player technically I ever seen was Ben Arthur.
Oh, Ben Arthur was brilliant.
He was ridiculous. I'd never seen a player like him. I played against him when I was a young lad for England against France.
Yep.
and obviously knew he was a star. But obviously, even coming back after he had a leg break, he was phenomenal. He could just do things that other players couldn't do. I'd never seen anything like that. And then if I go back a little bit further, the player who played football and made it look so easy was probably Nicholas Anelka.
Yeah,
he was again just a different level. They just looked different.
They had a brilliant team when they had Anelka, Drogba, and Maluda up front. They were wild.
Frightening,
yeah. Absolutely frightening.
The streets will never forget Nicholas Anelka. Yeah. I don't think ever. So we fast forward. You joined Newcastle United in the summer of 2008. Mm-hmm. What was the first figure, the first player that came to you and welcomed you to the club? Who took you under their wing when you were new on Tyneside?
It'd probably be Stephen Taylor, because we were similar age. He was a really nice boy, funny, local boy. So I probably stuck to him at first until, you get to know everyone else. And then it was a real star-studded group when I first arrived. The likes of Owen, Barton, Smith, Butt, Viduka, Martins. It's a real heavy hitters in the dressing room. And obviously Kevin Keegan was the one who brought me in, and he was a huge personality. Really, one of the regrets in my career, even though it was out of my control, was that I didn't work with him long enough. It was brilliant while it lasted.
Well, that was out of your hands, obviously, given the situation. Mm-hmm. How was the dressing room around that time when Kevin Keegan did leave Newcastle? What was that like?
It was, honestly, there was confusion. We had no idea what had gone on, because we had a great start to the season. We went away to Old Trafford on the first day and drew 1-1. We won our next home game in the league, and then we won our cup game, and it was all rosy. I was loving life. Keegan was brilliant. And then it was the end of the transfer window. We didn't know at the time, but there was players being signed. We signed Colaccini and Gutierrez, who were excellent signings. And then there was just a couple of deadline day signings that no one sort of knew. But we just presumed that everything was good. The club was signing players, obviously, as they do. And I think the day after the window shut, we just got a message that Keegan had left.
Yeah.
And then obviously the rumours start circulating, that the club had signed players and not even asked Kevin, or had not consulted him, and literally these signings had just turned up at training, and they had no idea that we paid millions for these guys.
Well, these sorts of things have even happened even close to modern times, when the club signed Joe Linton without a manager in place. It's just exactly. Wild. It was a wild tenure under Mike Ashley, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of it firsthand.
It was. I mean, after that, obviously managers come and go. That's part and parcel. But it was just the next 6 months were just a mess, where it was interim after Joe Kinnear after interim.
Head coach. Where's the manager?
Of course.
Head coach. Joe Kinnear, who'd been out of football for 20 years. Do you know what I mean? It was just carnage for the next 6 months. And we had an excellent group of players, an excellent changing room. But it was just that much carnage and changes, and it was just a disaster. It really was a disaster, and it was embarrassing to be relegated with that team. To be honest with you, yeah.
We won't dive deep, I think, into the relegation talks, but I think what makes this discussion with you so unique is that you're one of very, very few players ever to have been managed by the great Alan Shearer. What was he like as a manager? How did he communicate with you?
Do you know what? I really enjoyed working with him, but he brought Ian Dowie in with him, who did all the coaching. Alan took meetings, did the man-to-man stuff, the man management stuff. Sorry, he took the meetings, named the team, and he sort of took on a managerial role and brought Dowie in to be the head coach. Dowie's coaching was brilliant, I've got to say, and unfortunately, it was just too little, too late. The damage was already done, and even then, foundations were put in place. even though we'd gone down and it was obviously a terrible time, there was still a sense of, Alan's here. The crowd obviously would be on side. And as far as we knew, we had a meeting after the last day. Okay, damage is done. Right, we've got to get up next season. I'll be here. I'll be making big decisions. Players will be coming. Players will be going. Players will be staying. So we all presumed, Alan was staying, and we were looking forward to working with him. And then over the summer, it was just dragging on, that he wasn't signing. I don't know what happened between the owner and Alan in that terms. And again, it was just a summer of uncertainty. And I think we settled. I think Chris Hughton took us into the next season. And again, he was a head coach. It still wasn't a permanent role for him.
Yeah, well, Chris
did you? Sorry, Aaron, you go.
No. Well, I mean, Chris Hughton was, in my opinion, very good at the club, and phenomenal. I was actually quite sad in the day that he did leave, and when Alan Pardew took over. Alan was quite good. I actually met Alan. He's quite a nice person. What was it like working under Chris Hughton? Obviously, he was another head coach, but he would have been a bit more hands-on with you, not just man management. A lot more tactical and.
Yeah, it was. Chris was brilliant. Huge influence on my career. Like you said, it was a funny situation with Chris because he was the coach, so you call him Chris. Then he became head coach, so you call him Gaffer. Then he'd go back to Chris. Then he'd be back to Gaffer. And it was sort of like, can you just give this guy the permanent job? So
just give him the title. Just give him the title.
Yeah. And he was excellent. I mean, tactically brilliant, really straightforward, really simple. Everyone knew their jobs, and we had an unbelievable season in the Championship with him. Yeah.
Yep, and then obviously you come up. I mean, when Chris lost his job, I don't believe that the team was in a bad position or the team was underperforming.
That was harsh, yeah.
It was quite harsh when they let Chris go, and then obviously Alan comes in, and then the season after that, I think, is the season that we came 5th in the league and got into Europa League. What was it like working under Alan and the signings that he brought in? Because obviously you were still there when they purchased Kabai and Demba Ba and Papis Cisse. What was it like when all those players come in working under Alan? I remember seeing an interview where Alan actually said that it was one of his best seasons where the team gelled and he didn't have issues with the players, fighting for positions because everybody was just on the same page. He said he's never experienced anything like that managing in the Premier League. So what was it like from your perspective under Alan?
I really loved working with him, and the one thing I will say about Alan was he was always really honest, and I really respected him for that. So the season we finished 5th, obviously it was probably the most enjoyable season of my career, obviously, for finishing 5th in the Premier League. I think, to do that again, I think we were even close. I think for the last couple of games, we still had a chance of top 4. We needed
the media was coming out saying that the media up in Tyneside was coming out saying that we threw the Champions League, which is wild. I mean, we rightly shouldn't have even been up there at the time. It was definitely overachieving from the season's expectations at the beginning.
Absolutely, and all it was like you said, we had an unbelievable dressing room. We had a great spirit. We had obviously great players. We had a good squad where we could miss players and players come in. And it was a really good season for me because we switched because we actually had Ben Arthur at the time, and he was on fire, but
he was wild.
we couldn't play 4-4-2 because we had playing Hatem in a flat 4 in midfield, he doesn't work hard enough. So we changed. We adapted for Hatem because we needed him in the team, and we went to a 4-3-3 where we played Hatem on the right, Demba or Papis would play left or centre. They'd switch, and then we had a midfield 3, and we would have Czech, who was phenomenal as a CDM, me, Kabai, just in front of him, and we had an unbelievable balance to our team. Kabai was obviously class, and it was a pleasure to play in that team because it just flowed. We had a bit of everything. We were on a good momentum, confidence inside the dressing room. The manager would just let us, it was simple. And it was funny time for me because I did realise that if it was out of that trio, I would be third choice, and I had no problem with that. Czech was arguably the best in the Premier League at that time at what he did. Cabaye was, we were lucky to have Cabaye. So I knew if it went to a 2, that them 2 would be first choice, which was fine. And actually, with 6 months to go on my contract, so in January, Newcastle were offering me new deals. But I just, and this is why I really respected Alan, because he would tell me, look, I really want you to sign. We'll do anything to keep you. But, you know, my first choice 2 are Cech and Johan. Which I was fine about. I did, you know, as long as I had a chance, I didn't mind that competing. But at that time, I was 25. You know, because of the season we had, I had ambitions to play for England at that point, and I thought, well, if I ever got a chance of doing that, I'm going to have to be someone's main man. And Alan was really honest with me, and I'd started being able to talk to other clubs at that point, and yeah, it went from there. So I really respected him for that, because he could have filled me with a lot of nonsense and said, no, don't worry, you're going to be, you know, my main man. And as soon as I signed the deal, it changed. But he was really good. But that was the best season of my career. I really enjoyed it, yeah.
That's brilliant. Yeah, I guess that does happen a bit. I've heard quite a few stories of Steve McLaren being a bit another manager who managed Newcastle, but a few players. I think it was Mark Schwarzer was talking on the podcast, not talking about him being quite dishonest. But no, that's brilliant that Alan was such a pleasure to work with. Obviously following, you know, Newcastle. So are you still a Newcastle fan to this day? You still keep up to date? You know, still massively in love with that football club?
Huge. Absolutely love the club. Spent 4 great years there. Probably the best time of my footballing career, best time of my life being up there. Loved it. Great city, people, unbelievable.
I think you're earning yourself a lot of free points right now, you saying this.
Oh, no, but honestly, playing it, that's just, you know, you don't appreciate, sometimes you don't appreciate the time, but sometimes you think back and, you know, when that stadium's rocking. And I remember one game in particular we played, that season we played Liverpool at home, and we were, I think we were 2 or 3-0 up. And it was just a sunny day. There was a break in play. Someone had gone down injured, and the crowd just stood up, and it was rocking with 20 minutes to go. And I thought, wow, what a place. And you know, it's just good to see now that I watched the game the other night against Villa, and the last 20 minutes, I think the crowd just dragged them over the line. You could see Villa growing into the game, but there's just this electricity in the ground. You could feel it through the telly.
Yeah, that the passion, the heart is back, and the new owners have filled us with. I was speaking with Aaron much earlier. It's a hope and excitement I haven't felt for years, and quite frankly, I think a lot of the fan base is still adjusting to having this new excitement ahead of them.
I mean, the excitement is that in 5-6 years, like, who knows? Newcastle could be challenging for the Premier League. That's the type of investment and owner that they've got at the moment, where, wow, 5 years down the line, Newcastle could be a real force here, Champions League. That's the type of excitement we've got.
Being in Melbourne, a lot of my mates support your typical Liverpool, Arsenal, City, Chelsea, your traditional top 6. Now, I tell them I'm still getting used to the excitement and the hype of following a club with such high hopes. The question has to be asked. It's now 2022. Have you been back to St. James's Park yet?
Only to play. I've not been back as a fan to watch a game. I played there a few times, but I would love to. I would love to. Anytime I'm going to go back to England, I would love to try and get back up to St James's Park. Anfield, perfect game with Liverpool versus Newcastle, isn't it? Now, so I'll have to try and pick my moment.
Of course, you'd have to bring the family down. Absolutely, I'm sure they'd welcome you back in the Gallagate end any day. So I read online recently that your last club was Fram from Iceland, and I was wondering what your plans were moving forward. I know that you're doing your fitness work in Dubai at the moment, but what's going on with you lately?
So yeah, the Fram was it was a ideal situation for me because I was taking my coaching courses at the time, and they offered me the chance to come in and coach and play. So it was sort of like a transition role for me where I could see both sides, see if I enjoyed the coaching. Spent a few months in Iceland, absolutely loved it. Played some games, but also did a lot of coaching and worked with the coaches. So that was brilliant. And then I come back from Iceland. And in my head, I was already semi-retired. My body, I could feel my body, my legs were going a little bit while I was in Iceland, and my head was already sort of focusing a little bit on coaching, and I just felt I'm not fully focused anymore on playing. I need to start considering, coaching full time, but I didn't really have any set plans at the time. And then I got approached by an academy out here in Dubai. I come out to meet everyone, have a look around. And it was a big decision whether, I jumped into this and became a coach, or I hung about and waited for another, for another transfer window to go and play again. But I just felt the time was right, and mentally that, I got someone from above sent me a teaser where, after I decided to come out here to Dubai to become a coach, I had an offer to go and play in Asia. And I knew in my head when I didn't want to go to Asia that I was a coach now and not a player. So, yeah, officially full-time coach out here, working with under 21s, working with young kids in the academy, and then also doing some one-to-one stuff, which I really enjoy doing, and having a full session to focus on a player. I love it.
How are you adapting to the heat out there? Obviously, me and Harry are both from Australia, and we're quite used to 30 plus, 40 plus degree days. How are you adapting to the heat there in Dubai?
I'm all right at the minute because it's winter here, so it's like 25 degrees each day, which is like a real excellent summer in the UK.
Yep.
So yeah. Ask me that in a couple of months.
Yeah, and I think it might change a bit. You'll be looking for the air cons 24/7.
Yeah.
I have one other question. When the takeover went through, this is a big question that a lot of people ask, and obviously, for anybody who has supported Newcastle, where were you and what did you do when that takeover went through? Was it full of excitement?
When I first heard, I still wasn't sure that it was official because it had been rambling on for a long time.
Yeah, like years at that time.
I wasn't convinced until I turned on Sky Sports and there was someone at a desk saying, right, it's happened. And then I just enjoyed watching the fans around the stadium and hanging off street lights and statues. It was like they'd won the Premier League.
Yeah, very much so.
So enjoyed watching that. And then, I wasn't worried, but I was thinking, the expectations here that the next transfer window, Newcastle are going to go and sign Mbappe and all these players. And it's a building process, and it's difficult to keep reining the expectations in when, there's been so much build up to it. But, the window looks like it was a very good window. Newcastle need players that fit this situation they're in right now. And all ambition must be to stay up this year, and then the summer window, the calibre of players will be the next level again. And I think over the next few years that will just keep going and going, and you can only see good times ahead. Yeah,
definitely, man. Here's hoping. I need one word from you. Newcastle, do they stay up this year?
Yes.
Yes. I think
Absolutely.
So. I think the momentum that we've built over the last month alone. I remember the pressure getting a centre-half for the Watford match, which we unfortunately drew. I'm not sure how closely you follow each single result.
No, I do, especially this time of the season. Yeah, I watched the Watford game, and that was a real dagger, and that was the first time I thought, it's a bit a late goal at home. Just really deflating at the time. But was it three back-to-back now wins? Good transfer. Obviously, Trippier is going to be a miss. But the new boy coming into midfield.
Bruno Guimaraes.
Bruno, sorry. And then obviously the momentum of winning 3 games, that crowd, essentially. The home games are going to be vital for Newcastle, and they've just got an extra man.
Yeah, as I think it was Gary Neville was saying that crowd against Villa was just wild. And he says that just of recent
the for the telly.
That's it. Yeah. That's it. He said the feeling's back in the northeast. It's finally back. And obviously, you know, as you said, it's going to take a couple of transfer windows to really bring in the caliber of players to really push up the top of the league. Obviously, this window was very hard considering the club's league position and trying to get the players. I mean, we made the move for Hugo Ekitike that fell through because, you know, the club's position undermined his ambitions. And that was very hard. And obviously, we're grateful that the club was able to bring in players. And I mean, spending it was about £40 million once you add the add-ons on for Bruno. £20 million. They activated Chris Wood's Burnley release clause, which was a bit of a sly move, but you know, it's cutthroat game.
I think that was. I think there was a little bit of.
Burnley weren't happy. Burnley weren't happy.
Yeah, we'll take Wood because we need a striker, but also we'll kill Burnley at the same time.
Sean Dyche must have been red. He must have been just a tomato.
He's red normally.
He would have been banging his head against the wall with that one.
Now, Danny, you've been fantastic with the time for us. We won't hold you up much longer. Do you want to use this time to plug maybe your fitness business in Dubai if this reaches anyone out that way? What have you got going on in your life? Let the people know.
Literally, I mean, I work for an academy during the evenings. I've got a 21s team and I'm trying to turn them guys pro. But yeah, I mean, if anyone's ever out here, wants a personal one-to-one session, it's really football based. So if you've got any level of football, whether you're a beginner or you've played at any level, I'd love to. I work with all types of people, all ages, levels. So just really loving life at the minute. Yeah.
Of course. Any Twitter, any email, any website our fans can reach you at if they're out that way and need and want that kind of training?
Just my personal Instagram, Big Guff 20. It's my nickname from back in the day at Newcastle. I think it's a bit of an ironic one. Not that big, but it was given to me.
Who gave you that nickname? Who gave you that nickname quickly?
It was Nicky Butt. I had a really good relationship with Nicky Butt. He was brilliant. Excellent guy.
Well, we won't take up any more of your time. I really appreciate so much for you jumping on, Danny, and having a yarn with us. It's been an absolute pleasure, and for us, it's been being fans and watching you play for our great club. It's an absolute honour to have you come on and have a chat with us.
No, it's been a pleasure, fellas. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much, Danny, and maybe we'll have to have you back on in 5 years or for a 5-year anniversary or something like that.
Yeah, and we're just about to win the league.
Yeah, that's
absolutely a final day bonanza with NUFC Global.
Right, top man.
All good. Thanks, Danny. Take care.